And specifically, that cell cycle exit is done in G1. Actually, that is not true. That could be yes, exit in G2, but the mechanism is really unknown. Specifically of the senescence that involves two types of molecules that cyclins, especially CDK4 and 6, that related to phosphorylates the RB protein. And the RB protein, when it phosphorylates, this goes to A to F, and then to get into the cell cycle. The cellular senescence, as we saw yesterday, had specific signals that are cells that is in huge size, and specifically that high beta-galactosidase activity with for his high lysosome activity, but also this beta-galactosidase activity is the principal marker of the senescent cells. But also the senescent cells or the senescent does not state a late stage, or is a state that there are a lot of metabolites that functionally in this kind of cells. But these metabolites that are a high grade of metabolites, that the production of the segmentation of different proteins, like have a special function in microinverter, that's a growth factor, pro-inflammatory factor, proteasa, a matrix component, that all these components that are involved in especially inflammatory, and have a special in the chronic disease and the aging process. But the senescent process can be induced for different pathways, like the net damage for ROS activity, oncogene signaling. Incluso the SAPs can induce the senescence in the other cells. But all pathways are focused finally in the RB phosphorylation. However, you can see the different process, the induction of senescence also can be induced in different kinds of senescent cells. So, if we will look this capacity of secretory factor senescence, the capacity, the effect in the microenvironment of the cells can be varied dependent of how was induced the process of senescence. So we will start to study when we try to induce the process of senescence via drugs, that is palbociclib. This drug was used specifically in mammary cancer, designed for HER2 positive cells, and we hypothesize that this molecule, palbociclib, this drug, can be induced in senescence in cancer cells, and we note that this hypothesis was due that in cancer cells there are especially a high expression of secret1, and also there are some kind of cancer that were HER2 positive. So we try to prove what happened with palbociclib in this cancer, and use the same line IGS, that's adenocarcinoma cancer. And the first that we observed that we induce the senescence by drugs. That's one thing that the autophagy was increasing through the autophagy, especially we showed with SCT2 and ECT2, and we now observed by the flux through the autophagy by LCT GFP sharing. We observed an increasing signal when the cells become senescent for a long time of period. So, what do the autophagy? What's the relation? The process of autophagy is of course very complicated that involves many molecules, but finally the purpose of this autophagy is recycling different components in the cellular, like misfolded protein, organelles, like mitochondria, and the induction of the process of autophagy is very complicated, and its relation with the cancer is complicated too. Specifically, the autophagy, we can observe that the formation of the phagophore, posteriorly with the phagophore incorporates the different molecules and or organelles to close and form the autophagosome. When the autophagosome is formed, autophagosome can fusion with the lysosome to induce the degradation of the component in the cytoplasm. So this flow in the cells can be altered in the cancerogenesis process, and just how I say, the autophagy can have a dutative role in the cancerogenesis process, like to be a tumor suppressor, but also can be a tumor promoter. In tumor suppressed autophagy, that's principal when the cell start to make accumulate damage, like organelle damage, or also can alterate the tinea. Start to make the cells a type of genomic instability, and that induces that the process of autophagy goes or induces the cell death on this kind of cell. But the problem is that if and this process can be induced on chronic inflammation, that is given in time can induce also the tumoralization. But also autophagy can act like a tumor promoter. When autophagy is functional in the cancer cells, one of the things that are doing is that helps the cell to get old material to recycle and keeps the cell to cell grow. But what happens when and we also this permits that survival of the tumor growth. However, when the autophagy is disrupted in tumor cells, that produces that cancer go to cell death. So in some time, in some type of cells, the autophagy can act or suppress and or promoter. In which case it can act in one way or another, really is just unknown. But so we know that in the cancer cells, especially in the AGS, the induction of senescence induces elevation, the autophagy process. We thought what happens if we inhibit the autophagy in the senescent cells. And for that, we use in initial a molecule called spouting 1 that disrupted the signaling, the initiation of the autophagy, and a level of the disrupted the complex formation, the Beckley 1. And there we observe when we disrupted the process, the autophagy, there are not very impact in the in the level, the senescent that we observe. Here, how we can see here, but one thing that we observe that when use a specific concentration of these drugs, palbociclib and spouting 1, we start to observe that an increasing number of cells with this phenotype that are with multinuclear cells. So here we believe that so there are no a real role in the induction or no induction in the senescent process, but could be more related in the kind of senescent that are induced. So one question that we start making us that is the autophagy can real modulate the process of senescence in the way of the modulate to have a secretory phenotype that could be less inflammatory than the normal senescent cells. For that, with the first thing we want to do, we observe what happened with the metabolism of the senescent cells, and we analyze the expression of different genes related with the glycolysis, gluconeogenesis, and mitochondrial status of the cell. And here we observe when we inhibit the autophagy, in this case, we use knockdown the short hairpin for ATG5. And we observe that our modulation of the, for example, the glycolysis cells are senescent, but when we inhibit the autophagy fluids, we observe that the glycolysis comes to a normal state. And for example, we are in the gluconeogenesis, we observe an increase in the process of gluconeogenesis when autophagy is disrupted. And the mitochondria, the genes related with the state of mitochondria will go down. And when the autophagy is disrupted, this effects on the mitochondria is increased. So what happened with the uptake of the glucose? For that we use this molecular G that is analogous of glucose, a fluorescent analog of glucose, and we observe this is particular when in the early stage of the senescence, the process of the glucose uptake goes down when the autophagy is disrupted, and when the senescent cell is totally established, the autophagy don't have more effects. Whereas the lactate production, they are decreasing when the autophagy is disrupted. So more positive that happen that the flux is go down the glycolysis, but maybe they are exacerbating the oxidative phosphorylation. This we need to check really if the oxidative phosphorylation is real high in this kind of result. Apparently, there are no correlations yet. But what happened with the mitochondria? Because how you saw, the mitochondria maybe are dysfunctional. One a classical effects on the senescent, there are a mitochondrial dysfunction, and here we can observe when the used marker for mitochondria, that mitofusin, that's a protein that involved in fusion of the mitochondria, that how you see when autophagy is inhibited, there are an increase in the fusion of mitochondria. The fusion of mitochondria is a adaptive process that have the senescent cells when do it that when senescent cells, the mitochondria start to make dysfunctional, so to can get or keep the mitochondria functional, the senescent cells start to make fusion of this mitochondria. So in this way, the cell can keep for a time, for a more long time, mitochondria functionally, but with in minor rates. But here, P1, that's a protein that marks the mitochondria dysfunctional. So when the mitochondria dysfunction, pink go to the mitochondria, it acts for go to the mitophagia. Whatever the mitophagia apparently is not working here. This is I put this because pink can be functional. Pink must be related to another proteins, but apparently this protein is not working when senescents are active. But what happened with the ROS? How the mitochondria is dysfunctional, the level of ROS is increasing. And here with this is very strange because when analyze the level of ROS of the cells when the autophagy is disrupted, increase in a high way. This increase, they are induce the cell death in the cell cancer. That don't happen. The cell death, the cells they are not gets in of the cellular death. So why that is happening? This a particular thing that we really don't know. Next we try to visualize why the senescent cells have is resistant to the cell death. Well, we want to analyze the secretome of these cells. For that, we use dot way one. We analyze the expression of these genes, and we use here. We start to use those cell line IGS and N45 that are all both are cancer cell lines of adenocarcinoma. And here we observe with a profile of expression very difficult to describe, because when we go down the flux of autophagy, there are regulation, the some of the expression genes, but another we can go the pattern, they are different. So here for us it's very complicated to really make a specific analysis that they are having with this profile. But so for to make a deep visualization of the different factors that are secreted from the senescent cells, we analyze to a cytokine array, and with this cytokine array we observe the expression of different components or inflammatory components, and we realize that this heat map was clustering in a set of groups that are specifically down-regulated when the process, the autophagy, is got down. When we analyze the all mechanisms that, or all proteins that are secreted for in all different studies or all different research that we do, we observe, for example, that MIF1, that is a protein that they are keeping his status or his profile in different kind of cell and in different kind of time of the induction of senescence. So MIF1 could be a protein that related to the process of the autophagy or regulated by the process of autophagy. So the next step that we want to observe, that's what happened with this secretome, what effects have in the microenvironment. But for that, we take the conditional medium of this cell, and we analyze the migration through the scratch side. In the, for example, here in the AGS cells, and one thing that note in the AGS, the process of the migration is more lento, slow. Sorry, it's slow when the autophagy are disrupted in both with short herping and by spotting 1. But interesting, when we analyze the invasion, when senescence, when the cell start to make senescence, they are increasing the process of the invasion. But when the autophagy is disrupted, the process of senescence, the invasion goes down for both, for spotting 1 and ATG5, short herping ATG5. The more history is that when we analyze these cells, MKM45, we observe that the migration is different at the AGS. The senescent show a more or less than the other in the process of migration, where when the autophagy is disrupting for both genetic and pharmacology, we observe the migration is the same that the control. And when we want to observe the invasion, we observe that the invasion is increased when the autophagy is disrupted. So we have two kinds of cells of the gastric cell. One is IgS that the autophagy acts like antitumorigenic, where the MGM4/5 they are acting as protumorigenics. So what they're having this, which hypothesize that the genetic changes that are in the cell line, what different that IgS and RB in a wild-type state, where MTM40, the protein RB is deleted. So this is more strange because, see, if MT and 40 have deleted the RB protein, how can get this senescent process? Because how show the protein, the RB protein, this is the principal molecule to induce of the senescence, or that the cell can get exit of the cell cycle. But here, this not happen. When we induce the senescence with palosaccharide, we observe that MTM45 that induced in the process of senescence. This process is a little fewer than IgS, but there gets in the senescence. So the next step that we analyze is what really the role of this protein, the RB, in the induction of senescence. Maybe there are another protein, is a form of the RB that helps in the process of the cell cycle arrest. And summary, the senescent induction by paralytically shift the metabolism of the cancer cell. The autophagy regulates the ROS level in senescent cells, and autophagy acts a molecular of protein secretion in the senescent cells, and the RB could shift the autophagy role as tumor suppressed to a tumor chromatic. Thank you. Thank you to Nelson Brown, Rodrigo Moore, Ángel Cayo, now he's as doctor, Whitney, Raúl, Danitza, and Daniel Mancilla. All these very few groups, but we work hard. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, doctor Valenzuela. ¿Preguntas?
Yes. I was just wondering at the end of your presentation, so I'm sure that autophagy was somehow related to migration. Autophagy less migration than senescence.
Yeah.
So is autophagy providing a source of energy for the migration, or how is it
This is a really good question, because how is really working the autophagy in induce no more migration? We don't clear completely, but maybe that autophagy can regulate the different forms, the production of some of inflammatory molecules. The problem that take a real how autophagy works is so complicated because there are different components that function there that this there's not known yet. For example, why the senescent cells is it's not yet in apoptosis. For example, we can get a senescent cell for various time of a very period of time without getting in cell death. Another is what is the relation, especially with the mitochondria. But we know that mitochondria is a very special for the process of senescence. And it's not that mitochondria also are producing some inflammatory compound. But the way to discuss how the autophagy can modulate this, there is not for us now.